Vehicle Control Subcommittee to order at 5:04 p.m. on Tuesday, November 12th. Present today are Mayor Josh Garcia, myself, Devin Sheehan, members of the committee, other members of the school committee, Ms. Wilson, Ms. LaFave, and Mr. Izaza. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag. On March 23rd, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law a supplemental budget bill, which, among other things, extends the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2025. Specifically, this further extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum if the public body physically present at a meeting location, and to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. The language does not make any substantive changes to the open meeting law, other than the extending the expiration date of the temporary provisions regarding remote meetings from March 31st, 2023, March 31st, 2025, and this meeting is being recorded and broadcast on Ohio Community Access. We're here to review the proposal for the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission for facilitation advisory team. Is there a motion to recommend the proposal to the full committee?
Motion to recommend the proposal to the full committee.
I will second that. Is there any discussion?
Just to add here, that from what's new in front of you that wasn't discussed at our last meeting, you'll see DLTA time match. So in case there's any questions, I'm sure Eric can probably go over and explain what that, and that's not us, that's DLTA, Technical Assistance Funds. They're supplementing this. If you want to just kind of go over and explain that, Eric.
So every year, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and the other regional planning agencies receive some money from the state to work with communities in very specific ways, and it's called District Local Technical Assistance, DLTA. We are reaching, it's on an odd cycle where it goes January to December, not the fiscal year, not the federal year. And so we reach a point at this point in the year where we get to look down and see what is left in our DLTA accounts. And I know there's approximately $2,000 sitting there that is, whatever, not going to be redeployed for anything else at this point. So I'm going to recommend to our executive director we use it in this contract to help supplement, especially since we've been putting in time over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And everybody was wondering how we're going to ramp up and get things done. This covers my time till this other contract is in place and allows us the flexibility to keep going very easily. And my time is fully covered. And it gives the city of Holyoke a benefit of being able for me to provide my time on this important project. So it's last but not least, we also know that it's good for the project, good for Holyoke, good for the PVPC to do this. So we'll make this work, and it'll therefore bump up a little bit of what can be done. But it's really just to cover some time on my part.
So that's not anything that we're covering.
You're not covering it. It's coming out of our budget. It's just I'm providing it as a match.
And the only thing I had mentioned at the last meeting, and just want to make sure it's clear that the school committee is the client on this. So all final reports come to the committee as a whole, as a body, and any questions or stuff would come back to this subcommittee. And there's no singular decision maker.
Right. So should the documents say City of Holyoke, or should they say Holyoke School Committee?
For signing or for?
For signing.
Well, it'll be me.
Okay.
But we'll be working with the school board.
Okay.
As a client.
I can certainly add, one number to it saying that all work will be done in collaboration with the City of Holyoke School Committee to make sure that it's clear there. I can add one line to do that.
That'd be helpful.
Okay.
And to be clear too, I don't want, I guess when we talk about this tonight with the school board, Devin, this is an advisory team that's going to work together with the consultant, behalf of the school board, to, it's the public engagement to give a recommendation to school board. What do we want to do as far as the superintendent process is concerned, and maybe even define a process, but it's not at all to facilitate and actually do the process of searching for a superintendent.
Right.
Just to, I think we have to make that clear, because I think I've heard in between, just speaking with members of the public, there's people had assumed or had thought that this group would help with a superintendent search, and that's not what
Yeah,
we're trying
not
to
at
do
all.
here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, this is allowing the committee to inform their decision on what we do.
Exactly.
And with that, I think I said at the last meeting too, like, the school committee is not, we've committed through our plan with the state that we're not making any decisions on that until we have this report.
Right.
Like, that's the other part of it.
Yep.
So, with however whatever's gonna happen. So, just for any public watching or going back and watching this afterwards, like, there's not gonna be a vote next week on what's gonna happen with the superintendency. I mean, we need to go through the process and make sure constituents are aware of that. So,
And we're treating it much more like a summary report of the whole activity than anything else. So you have the full background to draw upon to be able to figure what steps you want to take.
I mean, it would be helpful though if the community advisory team made any clear recommendations to have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think that, I don't want to speak for the entire school committee, but I think the intent was that our expectation was clear recommendations from the community advisory group.
Thank
There.
you, Devin, for clarifying that. Going back to your original point, asking, I think it's okay, yeah, agreement by and between the school board or the Holyoke School Committee and the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. It's just the signature part, the mayor signs all contracts.
So just, I'm not trying to, so should it say City of Holyoke or Holyoke School?
Yeah, instead of City of Holyoke, Holyoke School
Holyoke
Committee.
School Committee.
Holyoke
Got
School
it.
Committee, yeah.
All right, glad I asked.
And then just, and you could just say, yeah, Holyoke School Committee, mayor, chair, however, but
Yep.
And then the law department's going to tell you how you really want it. So,
And just so that everybody in the room knows, I have had more than one conversation with great schools. So they are very much into this. They have somebody they're gonna be sending down our way to work on this, Jose, and I just can't pull his name out of my head right now. But anyway, so they're looking forward to working with us and working with you on this project as well. And I've had that conversation a couple times.
okay. And they've identified that person already?
Yeah, it's in my phone. I don't want to get the name wrong. Hang on, give me a sec. Woman in charge of great schools is Paulina Merton, and she's the one I've been talking to. And she is Jose Bao, B-O-U-E, B-O-U, the Director of School Partnerships, is the person she's recommending.
Can we take a brief recess?
Sure.
Is there a motion for recess? Call the meeting back to order. At 5:15, same members present, in the audience and on the.
I have I just noticed something here. The dollar amount on the contract
Yeah.
says $31,125,
Right.
and I'm looking at $33,125. Oh, that's because of the DLTA.
That's because of the 2,000 match from DLTA. I can separate it out if you want me to. I can just add another line to that and it would be there.
Oh, okay, it's fine. Just got it. Sorry.
That's all right.
The other, so you had mentioned who was going to facilitate for grade schools?
Jose, I don't know how to say the last name properly. B-O-U.
Jose Bo.
Bo.
Jose Bo. Is there any chance you can communicate with grade school and see if there's another facilitator? Only because Jose Bo is the husband of our chair of this committee and a
Okay.
school committee member, and we don't want to give the perception that we want to stay away from any potential conflict of interest, any potential
I completely understand.
yeah,
I can step
concern
out of the
of-
room and try to
of-
reach out to her right now if you want me
I
to.
mean, when we kicked off the process, we were like, we didn't want the administration involved, and we're trying to find. We don't want members of our team involved. We want the group to feel like they're truly. But yeah,
No, I completely understand. I'm happy to step out of the room and try to call her and see what's.
I'm
see if
okay
she's
with
available.
the agreement. I think that's something we can be figured out afterwards, and if we have to take any ethical steps with it, then it may have to.
I can be pretty clear and say that that's just not somebody they want to be involved now because you're going for full transparency, which you are. That's why you brought us in.
well, and the big part too is what full transparency. Certainly want the advisory team to feel like they're having an unbiased, right, like process where they can look into this on their own with our contractor.
Yep.
To come back to us.
Yep.
With that recommendation so that we can make a decision, because it is a topic, keeping my finger on the pulse.
Yep.
There is a strong feeling one way or another, and want to make sure that there isn't any feeling out there that this was already, decision's already been made. Facilitator is, the husband of one of the school committee members. How is this? Want to avoid all that.
I fully support and understand what you're saying. So I'll do it either way. You want to act on the contract and then I'll step out and I'll make the call. That's fine. If you want to give me a minute to make the call, I'll come back in. It's up to you.
I mean, I'm personally confident
Yep.
even going on from here. I mean, there's time between now and the next meeting as well.
Yep.
I will just open it if there's any members of the greater school committee that have any question or comments about it. Ms. LaFave? You're going to have
Want
to
to come
use
to the microphone?
a microphone somewhere.
Well, the microphone's coming to you.
Doesn't matter where, but
Full service.
Do you want me to state my name and address?
I think our recording secretary already has that. So.
I'm just kidding. So really quickly, as I'm going through this contract, I'm taking it as still a draft plan because there are some errors in some sections.
Okay.
Um,
I'm happy to take them under advisement.
okay, so it would be section, just had it, section 6, so the second page under the compensation. In written format, you have not to exceed $31,100, and then in parentheses, you have
Oops,
31,125.
yes, Yep. Thank you.
Another section would be section 5, the time of performance. You've
Oh.
got 2 years there. You have 2025,
Yeah, that's-
2023.
yep. Thank you.
And for clarity purpose, I kind of, have you done this type of work before? And what is the focus on your community meetings? Is this basically focused according to the capacity building plan, where you're going to be working with the community advisory team for the evaluation process of the.
This is a precursor to the evaluation process itself. We're trying to get information in from the committee and from the public to inform the rest of the process.
Which committee are you? Or
There's the transition committee, is that,
no, it's so you have the local control subcommittee.
Okay, local control.
You have the Leadership Accountability and Measurements Committee that's working directly with the Community Advisory Team. And that's the individuals that had applied to be part of
Yep.
of that process. Mind you, and for people to understand, because there's a lot of confusion in this Community Advisory Team, this has nothing to do with the superintendent search. So I don't know.
I'm a little unclear as to what your question is, but I'm not trying to avoid answering it either. We're working with, please define for me, and then I can take it from there. In terms, which specific committees? I just don't have all the names and committees
The
lined up.
advisory committee,
We're working, that's our intent, is to work with the advisory committee.
the team that we put together, I don't
The-
think we officially gave them a
The
name.
greater school, great schools and PVPC will be working with the Community Advisory Team,
Community advisory.
going out doing public meetings to
Yeah.
identify what they.
Yeah.
Okay, so then technically this is about what they want to see in the next superintendent, or are we looking at the evaluation of a superintendent?
We're not looking at the evaluation, we're looking at what you want to see in your next superintendent. That was not discussed in terms of performing an evaluation of it.
So then the Community Advisory Team, if we're looking at what we want to see, then I'm going to ask the subcommittee is if the intent for this is going to be what they want to see in the next superintendent, then that's geared more towards a superintendent search decision type. It's not going to be based on the evaluation that we have to complete with the Community Advisory Team by, and I left it over there. I want to say it's by April.
To come up with like an evaluation tool.
They should have already done like the processes and doing the data collection from. So during the time frame, which obviously we have delayed a bit, and like we said, this is a fluid document, but we still have to kind of stay kind of focused. In October, the Holyoke School Committee and receivers should have scheduled year-round presentations to review and discuss progress towards goals. So it would be goals based on that the receiver would have provided to us. Then in early November, we would have voted to adopt the evaluation plan for the 2024-2025 school year. Between November and April, this is where the evidence collection comes into play, and where the Holyoke School Committee collaborates with the Community Advisory Team to identify and collect additional evidence on receivers' progress towards goal. So my understanding when this Community Advisory Team was created, it was based on the evaluation of the receiver as we move into that process of evaluating any superintendent that we may have moving forward, be it Receiver Soto, if he was to become the superintendent, or it could be any superintendent moving thereon. I think where people are going to get a misunderstanding, and this is where we're getting a lot of that feedback from the community, is that this is based on a superintendent search. So are we saying that this is kind of where we're going with the meetings that are going to be facilitated by Great Schools and PVPC along with the Community Advisory Team? That's all I'm asking.
Oh.
So looking at the work stream 1, capacity building plan, the work in this proposal is based off of notion of the engagement with an external vendor to support the planning of a superintendent selection process, including strategies to conduct broad-based, inclusive stakeholder engagement in the process with support from the Public School Committee's Community Advisory Team. So it's that portion to advise, and it's not the intent that that group is the search group. They're advising how a search should be done, using broad language of what search is. But I think that's my understanding. Mayor, I don't know if you had a.
The search team, the advisory committee, working together with the consultant to solicit the necessary community feedback as to what the committee should do. Should we do a superintendent search? Should we not? Should we? But also from this advisory team, school committee, we'd have to, and this is probably right from earlier conversations, develop or get some sort of evaluation tool that folks would essentially endorse and say this is the tool that we need to use to do future evaluations on whoever the superintendent is. I don't know if this is the team that's going to be.
Well, there is a tool. So
There is
like the state sets a tool. So there's no.
So- we want to share the tool. So are we expecting the advisory team to give some sort of guidance or recommendation to the school board on the actual tool?
I'll get to Mr. Azaza in 1 second, but I think that the other prong of so there's two prongs of the community advisory committee, as Ms. LeVave said. The first one dealing with what I just read, dealing with input regarding the hiring process.
Okay.
And the second, providing feedback on action steps developed by the school committee during the receiver's evaluation process. That's the current receiver. Has nothing to do with the future.
Okay.
Or the future is. The receiver's evaluation process, which may include the collection and or analysis of evidence and the identification of focused performance indicators of interest. So there were two prongs for this committee, and I think we're talking about the first item, which was the item guiding the process of what the school committee will do on the superintendency. But they will have, like, the chairs of that committee, whether it's a facilitated discussion or something that they're able to handle on their own, will at least have to give some feedback regarding the receiver's evaluation
Okay.
of the goals that he just provided to it. So their work is two-pronged. So their work may be from now until February regarding prong one,
Got it.
but they still have a responsibility for prong two. Mr. Azaza?
I don't know if my comments might respond to this previous discussion, but I think the language on the first page should be expanded a little. It seems to say that the committee is solely involved in evaluating the qualities of the next superintendent. I think it should be also explicit about the advisory committee speaking and giving their opinions about the key goals and priorities to be pursued for the education of our students. So I would suggest that on the fourth paragraph, whereas this effort recognizes such and such, and it goes on, facilitated discussions concerning the qualities the city of Holyoke would like to see in its next superintendent and key priorities and goals to be pursued. I think that would expand the scope of activities for the committee, which I think they will get involved in anyway, even if we don't ask them to.
Well, this particular contract is, and that's what Devin was talking about with the prong one, prong two, and it sounds like to me that PUC's helping with prong one. And so this contract is for the agency to work with the advisory committee on that directive. But the advisory committee still has the responsibility to do this, what Devin referred to as prong two. So I don't think we have to encompass, if we do what you're saying, then what we're asking is help with this organization to do both.
Well, I would be surprised if anybody in that committee would not be expanding their opinions to just the qualities of the superintendent to what they want to see.
The contract's not with the advisory committee. We can still do that with the advisory committee. This contract is just for the agency to facilitate work. That makes sense? Are we on the same page?
So I think it's that the notion that the committee, if they're talking about the qualities of the next leader, you're going to have the goals of what you want to see in the district.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean,
They're
I
gonna
think,
overlap.
yeah, it's a very much an overlapping data collection. I think that
Yeah.
you're good. I mean, even with the discussion of facilitation, I'm sure you're going to see like, what's your model district? Like, what do you want to see in the district?
Agree.
And that's going to bring you down to what you want to see in a leader, right? You
I
have
just
to-
think that should be
Added there?
added here.
You said, City of Holyoke facilitate discussion.
Regarding the qualities and then and what priorities and goals should be pursued,
Turn inequalities and,
something like that.
yeah, did you get
Is
that,
that
Eric?
something that you see as
Yep.
manageable? Okay.
And just so the people in this room know, I don't know if I mentioned it last time, I'm former chair of the Belchertown School Committee for 8 years now. It's not the cities, but they were right. There are tools available for evaluating superintendents and through either MASC or Mass Association of Superintendents. So there are things that you have to do for the evaluation process, which is very well laid out in terms of the steps you have to take.
Yeah, and where the difference is
Right.
that none of that regulation applies to the receiver.
Got it.
So the receiver is not responsible, and their evaluation looks nothing like the DESI
Got it.
model
Okay.
superintendent evaluation. So, but it will be outside the scope of this work with
Yep.
Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. I mean, we will need to get feedback from the advisory committee at some point, but that feedback's not going to come in the months of November to February because it just isn't part of that cycle. So they're still going to be engaged for a longer period of time, the Community Advisory Committee. Are there any other questions? There is a motion on the floor to recommend this to the school committee, and I don't think we've made any major changes that couldn't be reported back. I know Ms. Feliciano probably got,
As changes as recommended
Yeah.
or whatever, yeah.
so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Seeing there's nothing else on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Oh, I'll second. I guess I have to second that. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. We adjourn at 5:33.